Shout out to Squarespace for sponsoring today's video and being awesome. There is an epidemic in Football Manager that we are going to attempt to eradicate here today, and it is making so many of you bad, and you might not even realize that you are doing it. I sometimes don't even realize that I am doing it. That's why we're here. I'm here to change my own life. Reform my ways, reform yours. By the way, the guy I showed you in the intro, the Erik Mendes character, is actually real. He was showing out on my Twitch save for Football Manager. The link is down in the description. You can check it out. If you don't like Twitch, then click on Instagram, because I always forget to promote Instagram and don't know how. On that cheery note, I want you to open up your save. I want you to find your save and open it up. And I want you to go through your team. And I want you to do nothing else. I mean, go to the squad view, right? Sort by the stars and just start clicking on players. And just look at the actual attributes of those players. And what you might notice as you make progress through the players that you keep clicking on is that the players that have been on your team longer are probably worse. I see the general idea of a Football Manager save is that you're going to continue to get better, whether you're getting promoted, whether you are already a big team, but hopefully that team is improving. And what happens when you improve? When your team improves, obviously the people that you've had on your team longer, if they're not reaching some potential that's like way over there, they're getting worse the whole time. And there's a trap that we all fall into when this starts to happen. It will forever be known as the Erik Mendes trap. You see, Erik Mendes did actually score 146 goals in 152 games. When I took over this club, we were semi-professional. We were in the lowest playable league in Portugal and got promoted all the way up to the top division with Erik Mendes as our leading goal scorer in every single season, even though obviously his production once we went up to the second league was a little lower. You know, he only scored 27 goals in 32 games. Gasp. But there's an extra season where everybody and their mother could have told you this was going to happen. We kept him on the payroll for one more year in the top flight after we'd been promoted to Liga NOS. He made 7 appearances, scored 1 goal, was completely uninfluential, and probably stole playing time from somebody else who deserved it more, who would have been able to gain development from it. This is the Erik Mendes syndrome. Because when you look at the attributes of this player, regardless of the amazing stories and the bond that you had with this guy, he's not good enough to play in Liga NOS. And a great way to just take out your subjectivity in this situation is to go up the comparison and compare with a different player. So let's not find, say, our starting striker, David Polito, who is significantly better than Erik Mendes in almost all key categories. Let's go find a backup, somebody who was on the teams before, named Julian Ramirez, where he is significantly better than Erik Mendes. And I don't mean that in a spiritual sense. I will always be bonded my soul to Erik Mendes for carrying me so hard through 4 seasons because he was in great form and the tactic we played perfectly catered to his strengths, unlike some of these other players. But there comes a time with the increased amount of money you have, the increased amount of reputation, and the more quality players that you bring in, that these players that you understand, that you have a long-standing relationship with, just can't cut it. It's an extreme example because when we started the game, Erik Mendes was a 26-year-old semi-pro player. It's not just the thing that happens in these extreme situations, which sounds like an oddly specific case, where you're progressing forward and you get all these promotions and there's one superstar that you go, okay, now we have to send him out to pasture, or as this tweet says, send him to the great pitch in the sky. This is a systemic problem that when I do videos like this, where I sit down and save your saves every couple of weeks, I run into all the time. It's, my team is good, this is how much we're achieving, how can we get better? To a certain extent, you always need to be trimming out the dead wood in your squad, and when you are trying to take the next step to go forward, you have to find a balance between the stories Football Manager lets you tell and the bonds that it lets you make. And those stories, honestly, to me, is what makes the game so fun, and actually winning and beating everybody. Because as much as I would love for Macau to produce a wonder kid that I can hitch my wagon to and carry me to Champions League glory, it's not going to happen. So as cliche as it sounds, eventually a lot of these other extraneous people are going to start to get replaced by players from some of the best countries in the world, like Brazil and Argentina and Portugal and Spain and France and Germany, because those areas are producing the types of players that are going to help you win more. So here is the solution to Eric Mendes syndrome, which can now officially be defined as not evaluating player attributes based off merit, evaluating player attributes based off of your past experiences with that player. And so you never take stock of the player attributes. You just keep putting the player into the lineup because you think you know what they're capable of, thus losing track of what they're actually contributing to your team. It's a pretty short definition. You need to sit down at the beginning of every season you play in Football Manager and look, and maybe you make a depth chart. I don't do this anymore, but I used to. If you go in and you go to Google Sheets, well, that's the video schedule. You're not allowed to see the video schedule. But you go to Google Sheets and you say goalkeepers, and then you go through all of your goalkeepers and write down somebody's name, which Reese, and what are they good at? Reese is good at, let's see, Reese is editing. What is he? What is Reese bad at? Reese is bad at, well, nothing. Reese is a great editor. Gotcha. And that'd be relative to your team. And you go through and say, well, this guy's the clear number one. This guy's the clear number two. And we look at these attributes. What positions are worse than others based off what you can see in the attributes, taking the game back to its roots and assessing the numbers. Now, I know some of you might already do this, but it's always worth remembering that as you play Football Manager, and this is going to be foreign to people that have just started playing, which you guys watch a lot of the videos too, and I'm really happy to help you get into the game. But the more you play the game, the more you will look at this list of players and no longer look at the attributes. You will look at that list of players and go, oh, well, Tyler Maglor led the team last season in player rating, which means that the fact that he has 10 marking is something I'm going to slowly forget because he plays center back and he led the team in match rating last season. That was a bit of a fluke. Nobody had a good season last year. We were the 11th best team in the league. We want to be a lot better than that in our second season in Liga NOS. But I'm still, if I'm playing my Erik Mendes syndrome, saying, well, Maglor's an automatic starter because he's always in great form. No, he's in great form for an 11th place team. We need to try and take the next step and go ahead. Is this train of thinking making sense? So often I make videos, tutorials, and guides about how to do specific things, how to do tactics, how to do scouting, those aren't even proper English sentences, how to properly train your player for X, Y, or Z, whether this tactic makes sense or not. Every once in a while I have to sit down and do more of a theory video, and these often come in forms of team building videos like this one, where you're scanning your squad and going, how can I get any better? Because so many videos, that would be a good idea actually, so many saves that come in for saving saves are, I'm stagnant, I'm stuck. It's Erik Mendes syndrome. It's easily curable. You just roll up your sleeve, right? You just roll up your sleeve, get an IV bag like of attribute comparison, and then just compare all of the attributes once a year, and then you're all done. Even if you hate needles, it's that easy. The longer a player is on your team, the more distorted your understanding of what they can actually do is. It's why when you're signing players in free agency, you get really confused. You're like, well, this guy could play a role on my team because he's basically as good as this other guy. But this other guy that's been with me for 5 years, right? My boy Johan Madrid's been on the team for 3 years. I already know what he can do. Which brings up an important point. If you have very similar players, and there's no significant difference in age, like 30 and 22, if you want the 22-year-old, okay? You don't want to overdo the cure to Erik Mendes syndrome. Because if you do, too much of something is still bad. Turning over your entire squad just for somebody who has one more first touch and is like basically the same and everything else, right? I would rather have Johan Madrid in his 3 years of experience in the team, his cohesion with the locker room, his understanding of me, his like for the players, his understanding of the tactics. I would rather have that and not have to go through the adaptability and achieving the understanding of all those other things that you have to go through when you sign a new player. When you bring a new player into the locker room, they have to meet all the new players. They have to decide whether they like you or not. They have to learn the tactics, and their adaptability is going to affect their ability to adjust and play at a full level. So if you are worried about now keeping too much dead weight on, you don't want to turn somebody over out of the squad unless there is actually a significant, noticeable improvement, right? And that is beyond 1 or 2 attributes being slightly higher. That's not worth it considering all that you're giving up to swap that player into the lineup. Atmosphere, cohesion, tactical familiarity, and not having to go through that whole adaptability curve is great. So you can OD on most vitamins. You can OD on the cure to Erik Mendes syndrome. So don't do that either. That's like the warning at the end of the video that says, hey, watch out. Johan Madrid's not that bad. You don't want to be in a position where you go, well, shoot, I swapped out my entire starting lineup because I did 40 trialists and one of the trialists was just a little bit better than this other guy. So I sold Madrid, signed this guy, and we still suck. And that's probably what I'm going to get on my next dose of saving saves videos. But that's okay. That's the bed I've made to lie in. You just need to pay more attention to the Eric Mendes syndrome, because if you're like me, you play Football Manager for the stories, for the love of the game, for these players that captivate you that come out of nowhere, like Erik Mendes. If you want to achieve all of your goals, it is exceptionally rare that a player like that is going to be able to stick around for the entire climb. Enjoy it while it lasts. He scored 146 goals in 152 games. He'll always be remembered. He's a canonized saint of the Football Manager gods. There's always a time where in order for the club to succeed, they need to move on. And don't worry, up in Football Manager heaven, they're excited for you. I'll see you on stream. I still love you, man. Go Oriental Dragons. Yeah. There's also another cure for the Erik Mendes syndrome, and that is Squarespace, specifically clicking the link down in the description to get yourself a discount on a new website, which is just a good idea. Squarespace is the online platform. It's really, really well put together that allows you to create your own online space. You are allowed to connect with your audience, whatever you want to make the website for, and you can create gates that allow you to monetize like members only content so that you can actually make a living thanks to Squarespace and its website design. It also has interfaces for the email communications to these members and provides you with a whole bunch of analytics like audience insights that you can use to be the best you can be. I am considering being a motivational speaker. Thank you. The analytics are great. You can see all the stuff you'd want to know, the unique visitors, the page views, those sorts of things. You're also able to, in a very aesthetically pleasing way, post your social media stuff on the page and then automatically post website content and push it through your different social media. It's very intuitive. And on top of all that, there's also this Squarespace extensions space, which allows access for third-party tools into the interface that can make anything easier. Whatever a third party would be working on to help your website, it'll come through Squarespace extensions. Usually it's used for shipping and stuff. This, of course, is all augmented by the fact that I've been holding this pen the entire time I've been doing this, which, makes me look scholarly. Squarespace is better than that.